Okay, so Biden announced on my birthday, and Bernie has now endorsed Biden, which is not at all surprising because he did say that he would do so before Marianne even entered the race. But also, I think he would have done so anyway, and we'll get into that. Let me get. I'm gonna do Andrea's coverage of this. Like every live streamer has covered this already, but I like Andrea's coverage.
So, Bernie Sanders, I know this is going to be one of those segments. Everyone's doing them. Every left-wing YouTuber is doing them. Everyone's got to. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like this is like our final exam or something. You know, you got to turn it in, or you get a 0 for the whole semester. We all gotta talk about Bernard. You know, we have to. I mean, it's required.
Well, you got to be in with the in club, Andrea. Apparently, like, we all have to be in with the in club. And that is actually part of the problem with the movement in general.
To do so. If I didn't, it would be journalistic malpractice. Even though I am not a journalist, I may have been formerly at a period of my life, but I don't consider myself that anymore. But either way, it would be malpractice. I would probably be sued if I didn't do this segment. So we're going to talk about Bernard endorsing Joseph Robinette Biden. Now, I will say this, you know, I understand why people are seeing this news story and they're like, oh my God, right? Like, I get it. I feel it. If I could feel emotions anymore, I would feel that. But I don't feel emotions anymore. To me, it's over. Like, as soon as Bernie lost in 2020, right, it was over. Like, and I genuinely, I'm not sure if anyone really understood that at the time or what. I'm not sure. But as far as electoral politics is concerned, Bernie losing in 2020, it's over. Like, as much as I'll vote for Marianne Williamson, right? I'll vote for her. You know, I'm an anybody but Biden voter. And so, but it's not going to work. Marianne is not going to be able to capture the energy Bernie did, at least in my opinion. And if she did...
Well, and that's also really important for those of us who followed Bernie's strategy to Dem enter. So I think Andrea is not a registered Democrat, right? I believe that you're either an independent or potentially Green Party or something like, or maybe even Peace and Freedom. I have no idea. You might have said this on one of your live streams before. But there's going to be two very different types of responses to this. There's going to be those of us who followed his advice to run for office, to run for party positions, to Dem enter, and try and transform the party from within. That was one of the goals of our revolution, which they seem to have thrown out. But there's going to be a very big difference, and I think that there needs to be a level of respect between the two different sides of the progressive movement, that some of us have a strategy to try and take up the seats and be able to help build our own progressive Democrat pipeline so that we will ultimately have somebody ready to run for president. Marianne is definitely not that person. She has no government experience. She does not have a resume. She's a self-help guru and an anti-vaxxer. So no, I don't think it makes any sense to vote for her whatsoever because, like Andrea said, she has no shot of winning. And so the only reason you're going to vote for her at this point is to look cool. And that's one of the things I absolutely hate about the movement, is that it reminds me of teenage shit. It's teenage shit. It's like deciding, I'm going to be a goth, which I did. I'm going to be a goth, and therefore I'm going to wear this black all the time like it's a uniform, and I'm going to listen to sad music all the time, and I'm going to have this whole community of people who do the same thing as me. You know, we'll party together, we'll do these things, and we'll really get nothing accomplished. I'm seeing that sort of behavior in the movement too. We're going to form a Democratic club, but at the same time we're going to support candidates who are not viable, who don't have the cred to actually win the position they're running for. We're even going to, on the side, support candidates that are not actually Democrats. You know, if you ever look up the 1111, there was 11 delegates that were going to vote for Doug Applegate for the 49th congressional district in 2018. And Mike Levin successfully pulled their votes because they had signed a petition to help get Gail McLaughlin on the ballot for lieutenant governor. And Gail was running as an independent. When anybody from the party who has a party position, and these delegates did, they were assembly delegates and so on, if they assist somebody from another party or who's running no party preference, or I think you run as an independent but you register as no party preference, then you can face disciplinary action from the party. They're not always consistent about how they do things in regards to this type of support or endorsement or whatnot. But it can happen, and it depends on if somebody like Mike Levin, or in another case I saw, it was the Democratic Party of Orange County, if they decide to pursue it, they can discipline you. So there's going to be two different reactions to how this goes. And I can tell you that one of the Democratic clubs up in the San Fernando Valley already hosted an event featuring Marianne Williamson a couple months back. And that was a bad idea. Because years ago, I know I'm going on a tangent here. In 2012, Karen Bernal got the Progressive Caucus of the CDP dischartered by writing a resolution saying that they did not want to endorse President Obama for re-election. There's historical context here for these types of behaviors, and it's not going to go well for the progressives who have entered the party if they don't support the candidates. Now, they don't have to actually provide any resources or walk for Biden or anything like that, but they cannot support an opposition candidate if he gets the party endorsement. So they've got about 1 year to do their shenanigans, and it's not going to make a damn difference. It's just going to be a bunch of people who party all the time, who don't do the walking, who don't do the volunteerism. They're not going to get any real resources to him because they're not organized enough to do it, and they spend most of their time smoking weed and partying. And I know this because I've been to some of these events, and I know how they roll. They are some of the most unproductive people in California I've ever met. And they're bitter and gossipy, and it's just like watching teenage cliques. It's horrible. It's a bunch of mean girls and their Kens.
If it looked to be that Marianne was able to do that, I would jump in. I'm not, I'm waiting. I'm not going to jump in. I'm not going to, burn through anything right now. I'm going to wait a little bit here, but still, I think it's over. As far as electoral politics is concerned, none of this shit matters anymore. Bernie losing in 2020. If Bernie can't win a presidential primary, the presidential primaries don't fucking matter anymore. I'm sorry.
I think he could have won, but he still struggles with getting black voters. That's a reality. And he didn't have a good South Carolina strategy. Biden had a good South strategy, and that's how he was able to pick up, make it competitive. And then when we went into that pandemic, Bernie's big thing was that he had the best ground army across the nation. And he did, because people wanted to walk for him. That's not the same for Williamson. She is not going to be able to pick up all of Bernie's people. Not going to happen. We had party leaders launching canvases in California. We had people across the country. But once we went into that pandemic, not only did we get to the point where all we were allowed to do was phone bank or postcard or text bank. We could not knock on doors anymore because of the pandemic. But also, I know in my case, I was a Bernie victory captain. My volunteers were so depressed that they gave up because they were more focused on not dying from coronavirus than they were on trying to get Bernie into office. I was told by the champion who was my coach, and we spoke on a bi weekly, every other week basis. She told me I was the last one of the people that she was training and coaching that was still actually operating, that everybody else that had reported to her gave up. So there's more at play here than just the political maneuvers Biden did in coordination with Obama to get people to drop out on the same day, the Super Tuesday. There's more involved than that. There was a complete loss of his ground army.
It's just that's the case. If you're talking about electoral politics, you should be concerned with state house races.
Yes.
You should be concerned with state senate races. You should be concerned with U.S. representatives and senators. If you're going to be concerned with electoral politics, you should be concerned with your municipality, your city council, because that stuff matters. The presidential primary doesn't matter. But again, it gets clicks, and you bet your sweet bippy I'm going to be jumping all in on the Republican side of this. I'm going to be making video after video on Republican candidates because fuck yeah, baby, give me some ad revenue.
Well, and also, Andrea, I mean, at least the Republicans are going to have some debates. That's going to be really fun to watch because there's a lot of people really bitter at Trump right now, and that's the only platform where they're going to have a chance to try and dish back some of the stuff he's been dishing out to them. So they need to be ready to really call out his bullshit. And it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that because they've got to call it out. They got to talk about the lawsuits. They got to talk about the insurrection. They got to start changing the temperature for the conservatives if they want to do something. And honestly, yeah, Trump will probably advance, but he might take enough punches that it actually hurts him in the general,
But again, it's also like Bernie already said he was going to do this, right? So it's like there are people out there that are acting surprised.
Right.
But I mean, I guess they just didn't pay attention to Bernie for the last 6 months when he said that he literally has, like he has said this literally months and months. He has said this dozens of times, this exact thing that he's saying here. But I guess people don't, I don't know. So it's not a surprise, but I guess some people are surprised. I'm not sure. But let's read this. There's some details. Bernard Sander of Vermont said Tuesday he would forego another presidential bid of his own and instead endorse President Joe Biden's re-election. The leading progressive, who was chief rival in the blah, 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 the last thing this country needs is Donald Trump or some other right-wing demagogue who is going to try to undermine American democracy or take away women's right to choose or not address the crisis of gun violence or racism or sexism or homophobia. Sanders said in an interview, so I'm going to do what I can to make sure the president is reelected. Now, the thing is about that statement is that Joe Biden isn't doing anything about this shit either, right? So, is Joe Biden addressing American democracy? No. I mean, you can make the argument, I've heard people say this, Biden is not going to allow any primary debates. Similarly to when Trump was president, and Bill Weld and Joe Walsh ran against him in the primary in 2020. He did not allow any primary debates. Joe Biden's going to do the same thing. Now,
Bo the Fifth, by the way, covered that topic as well. And he has a pretty good video about one-term presidents who have lost and how the reason that they lost is that they had a strong primary challenge. And I guess fortunately for Biden, he doesn't have any strong challengers at this point. So it would make sense to just, he is the best shot at beating Trump or whoever at this point, whoever goes forward. Because you're right, like Trump looks like he could drop dead in any minute. Biden actually looks healthier than Trump. And I don't know that they're that far age difference either, but whatever. Plus, Andrea, Trump hates dogs, which is really weird. I saw somebody do a video on that with like all the times that he's used dog as a derogatory term. he apparently famously hates dogs. And you can't trust anybody who hates dogs. Look, I'm a little scared of them now because I got bit by an attack dog, but I don't hate dogs. I've grown up around dogs. I like dogs. I'm just a little more cautious now. Now that I have permanent nerve damage, I'm a little more cautious. But yeah, I don't think the debate thing's not all that important. I think it's more important on the Republican side because they're actually like, I mean, why would you give a platform to two anti-vaxxers anyway? Why would you do this?
Say this, I was around in 2020, wasn't that long ago. I remember all the resistance liberals going like, Donald Trump's afraid to debate his primary challenge. Does anyone remember this? When Joe Walsh and Bill Weld were like, I'm going to run against this guy. They got like negative 6% between both of them, right? And as far as votes are concerned. But there were a lot of Democrats, of liberals, resistance guys that were like, Donald Trump is scared. And would they say the same thing about Joe Biden now? I don't think so, probably, because they don't really have any sort of principled position on this. And now, again, I support primary debates. Obviously, I'm going to support Marianne Williamson when it comes to my vote. I'm probably not going to donate her or do any extra propaganda for her in any capacity because I just don't see it happening. I'm willing to change my mind if she comes on my show. But
Yeah.
the thing about this one here is that Joe Biden isn't doing anything about gun violence. He's not doing anything about abortion access. He's not doing.
No, apparently he did just pass something. He did just sign something that gives resources to the states to do the read something. It's like he did just pass something. Brian Tyler Cohen covered it. He just I think it was on the day that he announced on my birthday that I covered both David Dole and Brian Tyler Cohen's videos, and Brian went into a whole slew of positive legislation that has been passed under Biden. So I think maybe you might have just missed it, but you should take a look at that because he actually has passed something that would I forget what it was called, something red something, redlining, red zone, red. I can't remember.
Doing anything about racism, sexism, or homophobia. He's literally not doing anything about it. Right? If you look at Joe Biden's announcement video, it's zero policy. The only thing that he is saying is Republicans want to destroy this. Vote for me. You know what I mean? Right? So, I don't know.
I'm sure that's a strategic decision, though, because most voters don't want to be bogged down and bored with all of the policy details, because pretty much I think everybody already knows the difference between Democratic leadership versus Republican leadership at this point. But what worked really well for Obama and what Biden seems to be doing as well is using very simplistic terms. Hope, freedom, yes, we can. Very simplistic terms to invoke emotion and talk about the issues in a visual way. So these things were all displayed as visuals rather than explicitly stated. It's a good marketing strategy, to be real, because you know what, Andrea, not everybody is like you and me. We're diving into this stuff every day. We're reading about it. We're paying attention to it. Not everybody's like that.
It's a little weird of a statement. I know we live in this la-la land where we're all pretending to believe that Democrats are secretly want to do good things. It's just that, Joe Manchin, it's like there was like cosmic rays and there was like, I thought I had the coupon, but it turned out it was in my other pair of jeans, and the sun was in my eyes, but then it started raining, and I did bring an umbrella, and we're just supposed to believe that they do want to do great things. It's just somehow every time they have power, it never actually happens. But again, whatever. Obviously, a Republican would be worse than Joe Biden. I'm not denying that, but it's just a weird statement. This is a weird, and again, it's not surprising. Am I disappointed? Sure. But what's the alternative? What is Bernie supposed to do? right? Is he supposed to run again against Joe Biden? Endorse Marianne? How does that go? There is no left-wing movement in this country. It doesn't exist. So think about it from Bernie's perspective. He saw a left-wing movement crash and burn and disappear. He saw it, right, get born in an electoral sense, a left-wing movement. There's a lot more leftists now than there have been historically, but they're not unified and there's no movement. All right, that's what I mean by that. I'm not talking about left-wing individuals that hold left-wing beliefs. I'm talking about a movement that is unified in any serious way. Bernie was, you could say, responsible for building one. He built it and it was destroyed. It crashed and burned and all is now in pieces in front of him. What do you expect him to do on this one? There is no left-wing movement in this country. It's gone. The only thing you can say that's kind of like a left-wing movement is like mass awareness on unionization. But that's not even really, like, that's adjacently related to electoralism, but that's not really translating much in an electoral field. That's kind of happening, like, independently, and you can make an argument that the mass unionization is happening despite electoralism, right? You can make an argument that they're kind of like in opposition in a way, right? So again, what is Bernie supposed to do? And I'm serious, like, okay, people want him to like not endorse Joe Biden. He's going to go up there and say, you know what? Joe's not a friend of mine. In fact, I was in the room with him the other day. He shit himself. No one had the heart to say anything. I'm saying it now. This guy can't be president. Like what? And then what? Like, I'm just like, come on, right? Like, come on. There is no left-wing movement. No one. As much as I love Marianne Williamson's policy platform, I don't know if love is the right word. I like it more than Joe Biden's. There's just not enough, right? This RFK Jr. guy, by the way, is polling higher than Marianne Williamson, and that guy's a fucking QAnon vaccine conspiracy theorist. I don't know why he's running in the Democratic primary, probably because of the Kennedy name. Okay.
I know. When one of my activist friends called me up and told me that he had announced running, I said, "You're talking about the Republican?" Because I always thought he was a Republican, but he's running as a Democrat. So he's a wolf in sheep's clothing, and yeah, I mean it's and what sucks about that is that it just demonstrates that there are QAnoners. That purport to be Democrats as well, anti-vax QAnoners. So that's where your horseshoe theory comes in too, He's an
anti-vaccine QAnon guy.
Yeah.
And he is polling higher than Marianne just because of name recognition. Yeah. Right, so again, as much as I support Marianne, as much as I'm willing to vote for her, and as much as like there's this like meme going around that she's like doing well on TikTok, it's not enough. It's not enough. It's just not enough. I've been around the block. I remember the Bernie Sanders fucking Twitter memes of 2016 and 2015. Does anyone remember this?
Yes.
When Twitter was the hot new thing. Twitter was like TikTok, but it was Twitter, and it was like 10 years ago or whatever. And the young people on...
Oh my God, Twitter's been around forever. I got my first Twitter account somewhere around 2005. Are you kidding me? 2005, 2006, somewhere around there. I mean, Twitter's been around for much longer than that. It's just, it took a while to find its footing of how it could be destructive and just a place where people go to fight at this point. But the memes were all over the place. They weren't just on Twitter. They were also all over Facebook and whatever other social media programs were around in that time. I can't remember if Instagram was going on back then or not. I think it was, but it wasn't bought by Facebook yet.
Twitter, they were posting Bernie memes. Whoa, Bernie's the meme. Oh, the young people, they're gonna vote for him. Oh, they're gonna vote for Bernie. The young people, they love him on Twitter. They love him on YouTube. Oh my God. And guess what happened? He lost.
Yeah, but that was a different scenario. He was actually winning. The difference was that Hillary had started working this summer before to get all the DNC delegates, and they had to do a whole revision process of how they actually decide who the primary winner is, because she won primarily by DNC votes rather than population votes, and that's not cool. And so that's why there was such an outcry. And they have changed it so that now they don't even call them super delegates anymore. They call them something else. I can't remember. They call them something else. And they are not allowed to vote until the second ballot. So if somebody doesn't have a clear victory on the first ballot, they can fuck it up on the second ballot. They can make moves and fuck it up on the second ballot. They can probably even treat it like a caucus, where they get people to drop out at that level and gain their delegates that they might have won earlier in the primary for, like, say, Williamson or RFK Jr. They can get those delegates on the second ballot to switch their votes. If I remember correctly. Like, I'm not a DNC member, but I was following, like, the changes.
So again, as much as it's cool that Marianne Williamson is doing well on TikTok, I'm sorry, not enough, right? So, but again here, anyone that's surprised about this, I think, is a little, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
They're not grounded.
But yeah, he said he's not going to run again, blah, blah, blah. I think it's, it's sad. Is it sad? Yes. Is it disappointing? Sure. But, I mean, the writing's been on the wall for a while now, so. But anyway.
He's always been a team player. Why would it be surprising, though? Like, even when he lost the primary, he did ultimately endorse Hillary and started campaigning for her. He did a lot of down ballot races, but he was campaigning also to get votes for Hillary. And that was going on throughout the general. She doesn't like to acknowledge that happened, but it totally happened.
In this media space, we all love Bernie. At least we did at some point. I still love Bernie. I agree with it. Just for the record, I agree with Bernie's calculation here. Again, there is no left-wing movement. It doesn't exist. If he did buck power, he would gain nothing other than look cool in front of, like, some online weirdos. Like, would I think it's cool? Would I be like, hell yeah, Bernie, woo, stick it to the man? Yeah, I think that would be cool. But, like, ultimately, it's just, we're past this conversation. We need to move past the Bernie thing. And so, there you go. So if this is can we move past the Bernie thing now? Can we move past this, like, this weird thing? I don't know. I feel like there's just weird energy going on. Every time Bernie Sanders is brought up, there's this weird energy in the internet space, like a mix of, like, some people hate Bernie Sanders now, and I'm like, come on. But anyway, again, there you go. He endorsed Biden. It is a little weird, yeah, that he endorsed Biden literally day one. Is it weird? Yeah, but, like, also, again, he literally said this hundreds of times over the last 6 months. But again, yeah, I don't know. There is no left-wing movement. It's gone. If there was a left-wing movement in this country, electorally speaking, it's gone. That's dead. It's been burned to the ground, destroyed. And so what do you expect Bernie Sanders to do when he turns around and there's no one behind him?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's partially his own fault, because, like, all of these stupid ass people that have, like, said, let's start the movement for the People's Party, or let's force the vote, or, all of these dumb ass ideas that have come out have come from people who were either working on the campaign or close to the campaign, or, had some sort of cred one way or the other. At least he was, smart enough not to do certain interviews. Like, I don't think he ever did an interview with, like, Jimmy Dore, for one. I don't think he ever went over to RT, for two. Whereas I think Williamson has gone to RT for an interview. I'm not positive about that, but I think she might have. He did he did a lot of live streamers, but he did the ones that kind of made more sense at that time. They didn't have any scandalous shit that we were at least aware of yet, because I think he did do that one with the guy. I forget what they were called, the Chapo Trap House or something like that. I think it was that one. I think he did that one. But point being is that the wrong people have been elevated into leftist leadership roles, and so the whole thing collapsed because they are mean. They are exclusive, so they're not inviting new people in, and when new people come in, they're highly suspicious, because a lot of them lean towards conspiracy theory. And so they constantly think that any new person must be a DNC plant. You know, they don't believe in anybody's good intentions to volunteer and do work, and they act like mean girls and Kens. If they cared about these issues, they wouldn't act like that. But they're more interested in power and clout than they are in actually getting this done.
Maybe I'm just a doomer, though. Who knows?